Today, we have a really special guest. It's one of the most successful entrepreneurs in the Czech startup scene. Was named in the Financial Times New 100 list and named as Forbes in Forbes 30 Under 30 Europe 2018, CEO and co-founder of Kiwi.com. Please give a warm welcome to Oliver Dlouhý.
Thank you, everyone. First and foremost, I'm a little bit sick tonight, so if you see me suddenly jumping up and running somewhere, please don't be surprised. I'll be back in 1 or 2 minutes, and we can continue. Thank you for having me, Patrik. Thank you for inviting me, and let's do that.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's start.
So, at the beginning, I would like to ask you, as all around the world, we are starting our fireside chats with a question. If you could briefly tell us, where are you from? How did you grow up? Something about your background?
All right, so I was born in Prague, but at the age of 5, we have moved with my mom and her new husband, because they got divorced with my dad, to Jindřichův Hradec, which is a small town at southern Bohemia. So that's where I have grown up. And at the age of 19 or 20, I moved to Brno to study college. However, I never finished any of the colleges I studied. I studied 4 of them, actually. I always got dropped out because of starting some business and not really focusing on studying. And my last business, because of which I got dropped out, was back then Skypicker, and now Kiwi.com, the same company. Yeah.
Maybe I would like to ask you, back then, did you learn anything during your studies? Instead of
that's a difficult
something
question.
Maybe would help you so far.
Probably yes, but well, I don't really believe in theory and theoretical education. I'm a guy who's a strong believer in practice, in really doing something without proper analysis. Just jump into it, and you have to learn on the fly.
Okay, and so as you mentioned, you started Skypicker, but before that, have you had some chance to be a freelance, and try something in, I don't know, coding or a different kind of stuff? So how did you start, to doing business?
Yeah, so I was never doing any kind of freelancing, but I was doing some kind of business since very young age. I think I started at 14. When I was 14, I was trading blueberries at the Austrian border. So that was my first nice income. Then I have started or established a manufacturer for coin-operated jukeboxes. Those you can see in the bars and pubs. Then I started doing some kind of live video streaming. I had some internet stores. I was trading domains at the internet. So lots of things, sort of hustling, I would say, back then. But nothing was really with a big potential. Although it made me some money back then. I was still. I felt that this is not enough. That I want to build something bigger, not just for money, not just to make a living, but to make some kind of change in the world. And that's why I was still trying to come up with something with a global potential. And I was and still am an avid traveler, so I was actually looking on purpose into travel sphere.
Okay, and that's actually the point where Skypicker idea became. So at the beginning, you were just your idea, and how did you find out? What was your cooperation with other co-founders, or what was the start?
Okay, so I'm not sure if you want me to share the story, because it has been shared so many times in the media and stuff like that.
Maybe just really briefly.
Okay, really briefly. So basically, maybe we should have started what is Kiwi.com or Skypicker about, right? So what we do is we combine flights of the carriers which do not cooperate with each other. We call it virtual interlining. So basically, we can combine, for example, Ryanair with EasyJet. Those airlines, not only they don't cooperate with each other, but they hate each other. They compete with each other, but still we can sell them to the customer in one single itinerary. That's how we started. Now the business obviously expanded into many other verticals within travel, so it's not just that anymore. Okay, and how it all started, I was basically flying like that, traveling like that when I was younger, because it was a way for me to save money. So at one vacation which we have planned with my then girlfriend, nowadays wife, we wanted to fly to Portugal, and the tickets to Portugal were quite expensive. Prague to Porto for like 400 euros. However, there was a local flight with Ryanair from Prague to Milan for around 20 euros, and from Milan to Porto for 40 euros, let's say. I don't remember the exact amount. So by combining these flights and connecting them together, we were able to find like 80% or even more cheaper combination, and we saved substantially on the whole trip. And however, it took us, let's say, 7 days before we really discovered, before we checked all of those airlines' websites, before we made sure that the flights were really connecting, etc. So the idea was maybe if we could automate this and provide it as a service to everyone else, it could be great added value and maybe even a good business.
Okay, and how was the first or second year of running the business? Because I know that you started in the number of 6 colleagues, and after 2 years...
Not even that, 2 of us.
Okay, 2 of you. And after a few years, you become really large. I don't want to say that word, but right now we have over the 1,900 employees or people who are co-working with you. How it become, so fast grow?
So this kind of niche thing, the virtual interlining, which we have discovered, turned to be quite a big thing, which we did not really expect. We were hoping for that, but we were not really expecting that it would be so big. And basically, we filled quite a huge gap in the market. And back then, we were the only ones doing this kind of service. Currently, there are a couple of competitors, but the biggest competitor is more than 100 times smaller than we are. So still, I would say we are a monopoly in that. So basically, we were at the right time, at the right spot. And we managed to leverage from this, to the full extent.
Mm-hmm. And as you mentioned at the beginning, you were 2. So your co-founder, how did you find him?
I placed some advertisement at a website called Webter. I'm not sure if it still exists. I just checked website for the online community. So I placed an ad saying I'm looking for a developer who's going to help me building the flight search engine. I wanted to be built in .NET because back then I a little bit understood the .NET technology. So I got like 10 responses. 9 of them said, okay, let's do it in .NET. The 10th one said, let's do it in Python. .NET is bullshit. So obviously I met the 9 .NET guys, but the chemistry just wasn't there. It was like, I couldn't imagine working with these people, not in a bad sense, but those were people who really wanted to build a project on a project basis, let's say. But the other one, when I was completely desperate, the last one, after 2 months, which wanted to do it in Python, he was the guy I could imagine working with in the long term, building a company with. So we got drunk the first day we met, like terribly drunk, and that was it.
And the story begins.
Yeah, and the rest is history.
That's how it works.
Yeah.
One of the best friendships as well.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, and what about your financing? Because at the first you got to attract the first investor. So how did you attract him? Because it was the airlines, I guess.
No.
Airlines, no.
It was Jiří Hlavenka. Okay. The founder of Computer Press. So basically, we had my girlfriend's dad actually known this guy, and he knew that this guy just made a successful exit with some other company, so he connected us, and Jiří Hlavenka invested the first 20,000 euros into the company for 45% share in the company. So now we can say that the guy won in the lottery, but of course back then no one knew that it's going to be so big, and myself, I had 0 experience. We didn't have any product. We just had an idea of what can be done and how possibly it could be built, but I wouldn't invest into myself, not even for 60% stake.
So he invested in you and in the idea? Or?
That's what he's saying, that he liked the idea, but he somehow liked the founder, me. So he invested into me because he thought that even if this idea would be a failure, we will find some way, or I will find some way how to pivot it and how to turn it around.
Okay, and about your growth, as we mentioned, so how did you set the right strategy or culture, from the 2 guys till after 4 years, 200 guys, right now, over 1100. So what was your strategy to set the proper culture, because definitely the process is everything you need to set up in every phase of the business. So how you worked with that?
I will disappoint you. I will just say one sentence, just be honest. No strategy, just be yourself. We from the very beginning, no one from the team was pretending anything, was trying to play any role and stuff like that. We were just ourselves, and this is the culture, not strategy, but this is the culture we have in the company until now. That we are very tolerant to different people. Currently, we have a very diversified team, so we have to be tolerant, patient. We understand that someone doesn't know everything, so we need to explain lots of things patiently and stuff like that. So basically, just treat people the same way you want them to treat you.
Okay, and what is actually these teams, consist? Because definitely I believe that there is some customer support, there are some developers team. So if you could tell us, these 1900,
it's more than 2,000 already, by the way. So currently we have 1,400 people on customer support, 400 almost developers, like 30-35 people in business development, around 30 people in the marketing, and the rest are like the supporting teams like HR, finance, facilities, and so on.
And right now you are running in 14 locations all around the world in different
15
cities?
Now. 15? Yeah.
Okay.
I think so. It's opening, all the time. So I sometimes I fail to keep the track.
And how are you managing, that the business is going well, in so different locations all around the world? So because there, I believe there you need some process, processes how to do it effectively. So what's your?
Well, yeah, we have processes, so don't confuse culture with processes. Those are 2 completely different things. Of course, we have processes which are still being changed on the fly as the company is growing, because what worked for 300 for company of 300 people doesn't work for company of 800 and so on. The key is having a strong management team, and I don't know if it's possible to say it even in English, but in Czech we say the fish stinks from the head. So if the head is okay, then the rest of the body should also somehow work. So my recipe to that is really to have strong people, strong leaders around me, not to be afraid to delegate even the most important things to them. Just trust them. And if they fail, they fail. If they manage to learn from it, this is also a cliche, right? But it is really true. We have done many failures. Myself, I have failed big time, many times. But if you manage to learn from it, and if you are tolerant to the other people making mistakes, as long as they learn from it, then it just works.
Why did you change the name of Skypicker to Kiwi? And I don't mean all of this marketing stuff, but I mean from a business side. Why you changed it? Was there anything behind this? What actually make a sense? And from business perspective, let's do it. Why?
Okay, so I cannot be totally open here, but basically one of our competitors with a very similar name wanted to sue us because they were in the market way before us. So we just had to change it. So that's the unofficial response. The official response, which is also true, by the way, is that as the company was growing, we really wanted to be a global player, and Skypicker was being confused with many other words like Skytracker, Spykicker, and stuff like that. So we are looking forward, which is being pronounced the same way in every single language, which has been spelled the same way in every language, and means the same thing in all the languages all around the world. And we have discovered that there are just 5 or 6 words like that. It's panda, it's siesta, it's kiwi, and a couple of others. And we liked Kiwi the most because for everyone except for the New Zealanders, it's actually an exotic country, exotic connotations, just good connotations, nothing bad about Kiwi. So that was it.
You mentioned exotic connotation. So, are you thinking about expanding to China, and all of these markets? So, what is your strategy entrance to China, for example?
Well, yeah. So China, that's actually a very good question, because we are currently present almost everywhere in the world, in almost every country in the world, except for China. We have very, very small presence there, but if you look at how big is the market, we are not really extracting enough from it. So one of the reasons, or the main reason, is that China is a completely different market compared to the rest of the world. Of course, there are differences, even in Europe or the other continents, but China is something completely different. Their great firewall of China is making things extremely complicated. They have their own platforms, which have a monopoly because of their legislation and stuff like that. So it's extremely difficult to succeed in China, and that's why we have just now opened a Chinese office with Chinese native. Mm-hmm. We will be managing the Chinese expansion from there.
Okay, and what are your what is your current priorities within the Kiwi? Where you are consuming the most of the time and your energy? Where is your focus right now?
So currently, myself, I personally work mostly on setting up the new strategy. Because, the last 5 or 6 years we were really focused on short-term, maybe middle-term strategy. There wasn't time, and there wasn't even a reason to really plan in the long term. Kiwi.com as it is now stabilizing in some sense, and we will probably be swapping investors for new ones, which will be able to better support our further growth. And of course, in order to come up with a good story for the investors, we need to have a plan. We are not doing it just for the investors, because we really want to continue the growth and really want to expand into many other things. But now we are putting together, and it's almost done, 95%, I would say, the new strategy for the next, let's say 5 years.
Okay, is this new strategy helping you, to deal, with the investors and shareholders, because they have different kind of motivation, and I know that there were some, different kind of messages all around news that you are thinking about some exit or whatever. So, what are your thoughts about this and about current, shareholders? What's their motivation? Where do you see, Kiwi?
Yeah, so let me say this loud and clear. Myself and no one from the management actually wants to exit the company. Who wants to sell their share are those purely financial investors who have supported us in our growth over the years, who invested some money and helped us to get where we are now. And we are now really looking, because most of the guys are based in the Czech Republic. Their standard ticket size is way smaller than what we really need to continue our growth. So we are looking for renowned, maybe Western, maybe Eastern, I don't really care about it, investor who will buy those guys out and will support us again in our growth. And of course, having a plan what to do and how to work with the new investor, how to use the money to boost the growth is extremely important, because without that, no one would be considering investing into us.
So, and as you mentioned the growth, so what is your valuation right now?
Depends on what others are willing to pay for it, right? We are not a public company, so it's really hard to determine the valuation. It will be currently, I would say, my personal opinion, upper hundreds of million euros.
Okay, so when you are planning to become the next European unicorn?
ASAP, of course.
Okay, IPO first?
No, well, that's actually what everyone is asking me about IPO. Do you want to go public or not? IPO shouldn't be a goal. IPO should be a tool. Currently, we have no reason going public. Maybe it will change at some point, but currently, I can imagine funding our growth for the next couple of years, definitely, from private equity money. So maybe we can decide one day to go public, but it has to be really there needs to be really good reasons for that. Some people understand being public as a holy grail of the company, some kind of goal where every company should aspire to get. Again, it's just a tool. In case it's better for the company, and there are many cases when it's better to get the money from private equity, there's no reason to go public, really.
And what about your co-founder? Because you mentioned at the beginning you were two, so you are CEO, and the co-founder is CTO, I guess? Yeah,
JK, Joseph Kapashi.
So where do you see your added value right now within the team, within the Kiwi? What do you think? Just your retrospective.
My personal added value now. So again, I'm the one who knows the company pretty well. I was actually doing all of the jobs, all of the roles, which we have now other people for. So I was booking the tickets myself manually. I was answering the angry customers' calls. I was doing marketing, business development, everything. So the thing is, with such a good knowledge of the company, I'm still probably best positioned in the team to connect all the dots and look at what we are doing from a higher perspective, from a higher level. So this is what I'm doing, and those guys which work with me in the management team and the others, they know their area very well, much better than I do, and they are 100 times better than I would be in what they are doing. But since I have, although shallow knowledge of everything, I can come up with let's say more high-level strategy.
What about customer service? Because I know that a few weeks ago you mentioned that that's great that you have so fast grow, but somewhere it's happening that the customer service you need to as much as you are working on your business goals, you definitely need to work in this kind of business on customer service. So how you are working with the customer service, and make anything so smooth, and without a problem, because I guess that in this type of business there's so much issues, without the flights, without the airlines, because you are the middleman.
Yeah, it's extremely complex business. You're right. We have terribly underestimated our customer support and our resources. We have grown faster than we expected. At the same time, we didn't automate things fast enough, and so we didn't hire enough people. So currently, I can say that our customer service sucks. It's getting better though. This week, finally, we see some kind of increase in the quality and in the KPIs we are measuring. So I hope that the worst is behind us already, hopefully, and it will be only getting better. So there's like 400 people all around the world joining us in the next weeks. I think until November there will be the last range of people joining us. So that's one way how to deal with the customer support and with all of the complexities our business has. The other thing is, as I mentioned already, the automation. So either you can pour more heads into the machine, or you can automate the processes and let people with brains work on something which really requires brains, and not doing too much of manual work, which can be easily automated by the computer. So those are two main things: automation and more heads.
Now, what is your major KPI, for you, if your service which you are providing is really quality and the customers are really satisfied? So, what is your major KPI for this? We are measuring it.
Number of complaints per 1,000 bookings.
And what's the number right now? Just if you want to ask.
2.9.
Okay.
And we consider one as the edge. We want to be below one, so we are almost 3 times worse than we would want to be. Yeah.
Okay. So about. What is your vision in the next 5 years? Where would you like to see, the Kiwi? What is your vision about Kiwi.com? Sorry.
Okay, so I can say probably that we have mastered or will soon be mastering flights, and we are going to be a leader in flights globally, or one of the, let's say, top 3 companies. No, leader, just the best one. And however, flights is just a small part of all of the services people are using when traveling. At the same time, and luckily for us, flights are at the top of the funnel. So when a customer starts investigating the travel, when he makes the first booking, usually, according to our stats, 85 to 90% of the people start with flights. So they book flights. So we really are on the top of the funnel, and then we can cross-sell the other services. So what we want to do in the next 1 or 2 years is to expand into the other travel verticals. We have already added, just in beta testing, ground transportation, dynamic packages, which means flights plus hotel. We are going to add hotels, ride-hailing services, even restaurant table bookings, in-destination activities. So there are like 15 verticals we are now looking at. And that's basically, maybe I will explain how we want to use the money from the new investor. There are two ways how to jump into a new vertical. Either we build it or we acquire someone. And since we are still really focusing our R&D on flights, we know nothing about the other verticals. We know nothing about hotels. We will not be able currently to build a good hotel product from scratch. Therefore, we want to look around the world and check if there is some startup or company which has this mastered, which we could invest into or even acquire, and basically integrate into our platform. Mm-hmm. So this is it.
So you are looking for some new investment who would help you with this goal.
That's exactly it. So that's how are we going to use the money from the new investor. Of course, the company currently is profitable, so we can fund some acquisitions or investments from the money we make, but not all of those 15 verticals I was talking about. So we will definitely need the support in this area.
Are you thinking to become an investor? Besides of Kiwi.com, if you were thinking about invest in some different kind of fields, because that's what some of the entrepreneurs, when their startup is growing, they are thinking about diversified. So are you going that way, or you are really focusing only on this one project, Kiwi.com?
So I've done a couple of quite small investments in the past. However, my investment is like a case of death. So whoever I invest into, they go bankrupt or have terrible problems for whatever reason. I don't know. So I said to myself that I'm not gonna do that anymore. So currently I'm really 120% focused on Kiwi.com, and I don't think that I can bring any value currently to any startups, just because how to explain it? When I'm in the shower and I'm thinking about our company, I don't want to think about something else. I don't want to be distracted. I don't want to be defocused. Because whenever I was thinking about the other companies I invested into, I just stopped myself. I was like, okay, maybe because of thinking about something different, I just lost the next big thing, the next big thought about Kiwi.com, which could bring us to another level. So now I'm really completely focused on Kiwi.com, and I think it's going to be like that for the next couple of years, definitely, maybe even more.
What about your personal life? Because you are also running the business for the last 7-8 years. So how this is working, or where are you actually getting the time for your personal life? For example, do you have some best practice in a prioritize? What is your approach to be effective and have the time for yourself, for your family?
So my best practice is basically integration of work and life. I'm not a strong believer into the work-life balance thing, because I think that if you really want to have the best outputs, the best ideas, if you really want to be successful globally in whatever area you are working in, you just need to think about your business 24/7. And for me, I've learned how to think about the business even with my family. Actually, how to integrate my family into the business. So I'm discussing, for example, with my wife a couple of ideas I have, and she is challenging me. Of course, she doesn't see or doesn't understand the business from the technical perspective, but she has common sense and is helping me a lot from the, let's say, user perspective. So that's one thing. At the same time, I have a dog. Whenever I'm walking the dog, I'm really thinking about business, doing my emails, my Slack messages. So basically, all I do when I'm not in the office is still somehow connected with the work, although it might look like I'm not working at the time.
And it's great because once you have this business, you can travel with your family as well. So you can check the quality of the services which you are providing with your family as well.
That's right.
What do you think about Czech startup ecosystem? What are your thoughts about? Because you are here, from 2011 or 2010. So what are your thoughts about entrepreneurs here, about tech startups? What do you think about it?
Okay, I don't want to. There's a couple of great startups.
You can name if you want.
Okay, I'm a big fan of Mr. Prusha, for example. Apiary, awesome thing. Honza Řežáb, Social Bakers, and now Gamey, and a couple of others. I think actually what is making me really sad from time to time that it's changing, it's improving, but many or most of the entrepreneurs I know are really focused on Czech Republic in the beginning. Maybe after 3 years of success, let's say, they expand into Slovakia, stuff like that. So I think people in the Czech Republic should really think globally, because we are great at cracking issues. We are great at hacking things. We are great at thinking out of the box. Because of those gold Czech hands, zlaté české ručičky, people in the Czech Republic have really nice advantage of going straight forward to the point and building the thing without actually knowing anything about it. That's our case, and that's case of many other people I know. The only problem is, for some reason, they don't have balls maybe to sell it globally. So I would like to ask every entrepreneur who's sitting here, if you currently have a startup focused on the Czech Republic, please reconsider it. The border is very thin, and it will probably disappear at some point. Think globally, because it's not more difficult to go global. I think it can actually be easier because the market is so much bigger. There's so much more opportunities. In the Czech Republic, if you have 2 or 3 competitors who are better than you, you are fucked. But globally, you can compete with 10,000 companies doing the same thing, and you can still grab your part of the market share. So I think it's actually easier to be successful globally than locally.
So what do you think is one of the top, skills what these entrepreneurs need to be really successful?
Naive and crazy. Well, but that's okay. I don't know, but this is just my case. So I'm naive. I probably had too high self-esteem because I really thought that I can fight with those big guys with unlimited budgets and become successful in flights, which was a complete nonsense. Had I known back then what I know now, I wouldn't have started this business because it's extremely complex. The competition is so fierce. So what works for me? I'm naive, and I believe that things can be really done in an easy way, which. Well, I got proved wrong many times, but many times I somehow got lucky and it just worked.
And do you think that, for example, it's important to be more, pragmatic, looking for the numbers, and be good in some strategy of level, or it's more important that you have your vision, and you are doing what you think is right, trying, and really fast, trying to learn from your mistakes?
So again, what works for me doesn't need to work for anyone else. So it's really hard to say. But my style is really follow the. I don't want to sound sentimental, but follow your heart in some sense, because the brain is extremely powerful computer, and the consciousness it's not everything. It's just a very tiny part of what's of the processes which are happening in your head. So in some sense, the computer you have in your head can pre-compute the things and give you results without any rational logics behind. And if you just believe that, it can be quite a big success, and no one knows why. Mm-hmm. So I'm not a big fan of doing, rigid analysis and stuff like that, because it slows you down. And sometimes the analysis can tell you, don't do it. It doesn't make sense. But the analysis is just a piece of paper which is limited. But the brain is almost unlimited. So doing analysis inside your brain, for me, works much better than doing analysis on paper in Excel or whatever.
And what is your biggest challenge as entrepreneur?
To survive, of course, to survive to the next day, to be able to bring innovative ideas and compete with the others. The world is huge, and there are companies and people who are smarter than me, who might have better ideas, definitely more money, stuff like that. So to survive against this kind of competition.
Mm-hmm. And the last question before we go to Q&A part, because I believe that you have so many questions. What is your biggest success?
That I survived. I don't know. Well, the biggest success is the life I'm living. I'm happy. So I think that's my biggest success, I would say.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's go for questions. Probably we don't have any right now, so maybe we can ask, from audience. We have money?
There are many questions.
Many questions there?
I think they're waiting for it.
What?
It should be somewhere there. Okay, so maybe. Sorry, guys. Okay, so I'll ask here. So, how do you differentiate services for small medium enterprises? Do you offer business tickets?
Not yet, but I hope we'll be able to implement business class tickets in Q3, Q4 this year, the latest.
Ah, okay. Now it's working, so just wait a sec. Put it there. Okay. So, what is your favorite location to travel?
Galapagos, probably. I've been there last year in February, and it's like a paradise. Lots of animals there, the turtles and iguanas, and it's just no tourists almost. I can definitely recommend Galapagos to everyone.
Okay, where did you seek advice when you were starting up? Did you seek mentors? Where did you find them?
Not really, to be honest. And I think this is one of the failures or mistakes I have done. I was too stubborn to ask anyone for any kind of advice. It worked for me somehow, but it could have worked better, maybe. I don't know. Currently, we are putting together a list of people which we would like to invite to an advisory board, which we are now building in the company. So those are the most successful CEOs and chairmen in travel business. Mm-hmm. So hopefully those would be my new mentors. But so far, I didn't have any official mentors or anyone to give me advices. Well, okay. For example, Jiří Hlavenka, our first investor, he gave me lots of general advices how to do business in general. But if we are talking about travel, unfortunately, in the Czech Republic, there are not too many people who know. I don't want to boast or something, but who know as much about travel as I do. So it's hard to find the right people here. So we are looking outside, and again, successful people who already have some big history and big successes in travel business. Those are the ones we would like to get advices from.
Were you someday thinking about to go to incubator or accelerator, for some advice, anywhere, globally? What do you think about?
So we've gone through StarCube in South Moravian Innovation Center, which was a three months program, so startup accelerator. So it was quite a nice experience, and this way we got into the Brno startup community. So we made many friends there who were solving the similar issues back then. So yeah, but I think now it's too late to think about anything like that anymore.
What were the biggest challenges that you faced when scaling so fast, and how did you address them? Any best practices discovered?
I cannot say that there's any one single biggest challenge. It's not like that. It's basically all of the operation stuff connected with the strategy. So you need to balance your time on firefighting, because we are firefighting every single day. For example, with the customer service. So now I'm really getting hands-on on customer service, trying to find some shortcuts, how to automate things quickly. Even at some bigger costs, stuff like that. So probably balancing between operations and strategy and building the vision. That's the biggest challenge, because there's always some operational issue which needs to be sorted out, which needs to be tackled. But you still need to look into the future and go forward.
Okay, how difficult was it to raise funding after giving up 45% of equity to first investor? Good question.
Well, back then it seemed quite difficult to me. Now I think it was actually quite easy, partially because we didn't really raise too much money, so it was pocket money for all of the investors who invested into us. So we have so far raised $1.5 million in total. So getting this amount of funding when your idea makes at least a basic sense should be pretty easy.
And how many shareholders do you have right now, and what percentage of shares they have, if you know?
Okay, so Juránek still has around 22.5% ish, I think. I have 24.5, JK around 13.6, Dlouhý Airlines 21.6, Sugilit Invest 8.5%. On Tomek 10%.
I'm not challenging you. I'm just asking.
You asked me, so I'm answering.
Great.
And then Lucy Brešová 0.9 and Luboš Harčenko 0.9 as well at this point.
Okay. How does Kiwi make its money?
Sorry?
How does Kiwi make its money? But I think that
so we are adding a markup on top of the flight's price. So if you see connecting flight, for example, with Ryanair and Wizz Air, if you would go to Ryanair directly and Wizz Air website directly, it would be slightly cheaper by between 10 to 15% cheaper. However, the difference is that if you book those flights directly and you miss your connecting flight because of the delay of the first one, no one helps you. So in this service fee, we have so-called Kiwi.com guarantee, which means that in case of any disruptions, in case you miss your connection, you're stuck at the airport, we help you. We book you to the next available flight to your final destination. We book you a hotel in case there's need to stay over, meal voucher, stuff like that. So we really take care of our customers, and that's how we justify our markup.
And your margin is around, I read somewhere,
10 to 15%.
10 to 15% is margin. Okay. Any great books, entrepreneurs, etc., that really influenced you, that you would recommend to check out?
I don't read. I don't have time to read. Maybe another mistake I'm making. But what I liked a lot was The Hard Thing About Hard Things by Mr. Horowitz. So that was a good one. But that's it. I think that was the only book I read in the last 6 years.
And some reports.
Well, yeah, of course. I read lots of reports, and I'm a big fan of Quora. So whenever I'm really out of power and I have to procrastinate somehow, I use Quora to get some new knowledge.
Mm-hmm. And somewhere you mentioned Elon Musk, that you are a fan of his approaches.
Who isn't?
Yeah, that's true. How is your business different from Skyscanner?
So Skyscanner is meta search. So they're just a flight comparison website. So basically, we are partners with Skyscanner. When user makes a search at Skyscanner, Skyscanner sends this request or distributes this request among hundreds of partners, including Kiwi.com, by the way. So we are present at Skyscanner. And when the customer finds the right flight and wants to make a booking, Skyscanner redirects the customer to Expedia, to Letushka, to Kiwi.com to finish the booking. So Skyscanner is actually our most important partner, or one of the 2 or 3 most important partners where we are getting traffic from.
And you mentioned some failures. So what is your biggest failure from the business perspective? Please be exact.
I hope that the biggest, not hope, but I'm afraid that the biggest failure is still to come. Biggest failures. I don't know. Basically, okay, you want me to be specific, but I would say in general, my failures is not following our internal processes and pushing some projects through which I really believe in without the proper assessment. So basically the thing I said in the beginning, which is my big advantage, that I'm really thinking without any analyzing, all of the mistakes I made were because I was just doing it without doing a proper or making a proper analysis. So I don't know. For example, we wanted to completely rebuild the search form. And we have come up with some quite futuristic modern interface, and we didn't do any user testing, any focus groups and stuff like that, and we spent like 300,000 euros on building something which never worked. So and it was very easy to prove the concept, with just a couple of thousand euros spent. But I was so confident that it is gonna be a good thing that I didn't want to waste not even a week of time to test if it's gonna work or not.
So today, what would you do differently? Is do the proper analysis, do some research?
Not really. There are still. I don't know. Again, I'm sort of the follow the heart entrepreneur. So sometimes it makes sense to make the analysis, but sometimes I have this gut feeling that we just need to do it and do it quickly and ASAP. In slight majority of the cases, it worked out. So I think that's why we are still around. But in quite a big amount of cases, it didn't. So, yeah.
How is Brno as a headquarter?
Great. Well, Brno is one big campus. So out of the 300,000 people, there's like 100,000 students. So all of the bars, pubs, restaurants are made from students or by students for students. So whenever we are really completely exhausted, there's always a good place to go to spend the night, to discuss business again with my colleagues. But it's different to discuss business at work in the office and discuss business, with a couple of beers or shots or cocktails. So I think Brno is great from this perspective. At the same time, there are lots of skilled people there. So there are 3 universities which are producing 1,500 IT professionals every year. So it's a good place to get a talent in.
Yeah, about the hiring, I read in newspaper some article about the drones when you are trying to hiring from the other offices. So.
Right, there was AVG. They were basically laying off hundreds of their developers. So we took a couple of drones and we flew them in front of their windows with Kiwi.com is hiring. Why are you wasting time here if you are going to be laid off anyway? So
that's good marketing, by the way.
We actually get quite a couple of nice people and skilled people like this. So. Thinking out of the box, that's the way to go.
I hope that they didn't jump for the drones for the offer.
Just a couple of them, but let's take this offline.
When was the first time that your company hired a person you have not met? It seems like a big milestone.
I don't know. Well, I think it was 2014, I would say. So 2 years after we started the company.
Do you know who it was? who was it? Like
I haven't met
developer
him or her, so how,
yeah,
how am I supposed to know?
You didn't ask. But right now, if you are hiring anyone, within the, I guess, the managing roles, C-levels, you are definitely. What is your process to hire these people? What is important to you when you are looking and hiring?
For C-level, for my closest co-workers, the chemistry, common sense, honesty, the ability to admit a mistake and learn from it, and he has to drink alcohol, or she.
Yeah, because okay. Can you tell what are Czech startups lacking compared to US startups, and what are their strengths?
Okay, so strengths I've already talked about. So the strength is that Czech people are really very skilled in hacking, in doing crazy stuff, and finding shortcuts and thinking really out of the box. The problem is that, unfortunately, in the Czech Republic, and not just in the Czech Republic, I think whole Central Europe is lacking a capital. And everybody is saying that there's lots of money in the streets, that everybody is eager to invest. From my experience, it's not the case. Yeah, of course, they can give you a couple of million euros for your startup, but there are seed investments in the US for hundreds of millions of euros around. So I'm not sure if this is actually going to change anytime soon, because the thing is, America is like build it fast, don't care about the cost. Profit is secondary or tertiary thing. Just build it, get eyeballs, grow it as much as you can, and then sell it, go public, whatever, and later on you will find a business model. Yes, that's a great thing, and without this, Facebook wouldn't be here. All of these big companies wouldn't be here. So I just think that every region is building different types of startups. Kiwi.com, because we have only raised 1.5 million in total, we had to be profitable from the very beginning. And because we are doing a transactional business, we are selling commodity, the price is the most important thing, right? There are just two variables when people are deciding about flights. It's a duration and price. So if you are able to offer the cheapest or the shortest flight, you probably get the sale. So for us, from the very beginning, it was about efficiency, and about the cheapest or the lowest cost possible per transaction, about lots of automation. Basically, the models are different. We had to be profitable, and thanks to that, we were able to build such a great product with so many customers.
Mm-hmm. And how do you perceive Google as a growth enabler or as a competitor with flightsgoogle.com?
Well, fortunately, at least for now, Google doesn't want to get his hands dirty with doing the fulfillment, with answering the calls, with doing the manual stuff, so which is good. At the same time, Google is investing heavily into AI. So I can see that at some point in a time, there'll be no space for manual customer service, for example. Everything will be automated via Google Home or Alexa or whatever you name it. At the same time, all of the travel market is extremely fragmented, but companies like us, Google as well, and hundreds of others are aggregating the content, the data, the airlines into simple APIs. So at some point, everything will be fully automated, and that will be the point where Google is gonna probably kill everyone in the travel industry. It's hard to estimate how long it's gonna take. I hope it's gonna take as much time as possible. At the same time, that's of course the vision, what could happen if nothing changes, if all of the competitors would become stuck at this place. But the world is entropy, everything is changing. There are millions and millions of new releases every day. So it might not end up like this. But currently, if you just look at the trend, maybe in 10, 15, 20 years, Google would be the only, and not just travel, Google would probably be the only company in the world. But again, hopefully this is not going to be the case.
Okay, so last 3 questions. This one, can you specify your salary? How much money should be CEO of successful private company getting? And I think that maybe there is another connection to how do you think that the CEOs should be rewarded, for their work? What are your thoughts, if anyone here, is a CEO or setting up the right company, what are your thoughts about the rewarding, these C-level?
So, if I understand correctly, you're asking about my salary.
Yeah, that's the first question.
Not that much, actually. Okay, I will answer the other part, and in the meantime, I will try to come up with some smart answer to the first part.
I want to give you time.
Yeah, so there are 2 types of CEOs: the founder CEO and hired CEO, and there are very big differences between those 2 types of CEOs. So the founder CEO is usually motivated by building the whole thing. He starts, probably with sub-market level salary, and what drives him is not to hit his KPIs to get his bonuses, but what drives him, and now I'm talking about myself, what drives me is to build the product, to grow the customer base, to deliver value to our customers. So for me, money is really secondary. Of course, I have enough money to pay for my pay for the rent, to go for a vacation. Although I don't have almost any vacation, so it's irrelevant. So I have actually more money than I can spend because I don't actually live. And the other type of the CEO is the hard CEO, the professional CEO. So, for example, Dara from Uber, who has been a CEO of Expedia before, and of some other companies before. And there, of course, the salary is tightly connected to the performance of the company. If it's public, to the share price, and there is a mix of stock options, cash, and bonuses and other part. So far, I haven't come up with any idea how to answer the first part of the question. So, okay, based on the analysis I got from our HR, the typical CEO in the company of 2,000 people in this region should earn around 300,000 per year. So I'm not even close to that.
Okay, I think that's a great answer. And what truly motivates you? You could exit and enjoy the fruits of your hard work.
Sorry, I was listening to chatter. So could you please say that?
Did you anything important you would like to share?
About the currency.
Dollars.
Yeah, it was the currency.
Dollars. Or euros. I don't know, one of those.
Okay. So what truly motivates you? You could exit and enjoy the fruits of your hard work.
That's a great question. Thanks for that. So, of course, there are thoughts and ideas, what you would do with the money. I indicated some valuation our company might have at this point. So, of course, if I translate it into money for me based on the share I have, of course, people are thinking, or I'm about thinking, what would I do with that? And I came to a conclusion that even 10 times more money than what I would be eligible to get from Kiwi.com if I sold my share. Even 10 times of the money wouldn't buy me probably the happiness I'm having from building Kiwi.com. So that's for me the reason of staying and not selling. Because, okay, you can buy an island near Bali, and what is it for? So probably with the money I would start building something, some new startup, some new business. But at the same time, I do believe, and I strongly believe, that Kiwi.com is one in the lifetime opportunity, and I just don't want to screw it up. And it might never repeat again. It might never come back if I lose it. So I'm staying, and I don't care about cash.
And last question: what about FOMO? Are you experiencing it as well? If so, how do you fight it?
What about
FOMO, F-O-M-O.
What is FOMO?
Fear of
Yeah.
missing out.
What?
Fear of missing out.
Oh, missing out what? I don't know the startup terms, so could you please explain what does it really mean?
Actually, could you explain it?
Yeah, I mean, what are you missing out on, like on in different things in your life that you could be doing if you were, like, for example, kite surfing and.
Oh, right. Not really. I used to have it maybe 2 years ago when I didn't really know what to do with the company. I was not really happy about our cap table, as you have said. So I wasn't sure if there is any good outcome for Kiwi.com or back then Skype. No, it was Kiwi.com already. But now I'm 155% sure that there's nothing better to do for me than what I'm already doing. I'm so much enjoying it. Although it's extremely stressful, don't get me wrong. I'm extremely nervous from time to time. I'm upset because something went wrong. My blood pressure sometimes go too much up, sometimes too much down. But I'm enjoying it, and I cannot imagine any other life or any other job or any other thing I would be doing now.
Okay, so thank you very much, Oliver, for your coming.
Thank you.
I hope that you'll stay for a while. For others, if they would like to in person meet with you, ask you some maybe more specific questions for them.
Just warning, I might be slightly contagious, so just stay
That's
away
okay.
from me.